Luke chapter 20, verse 20. We haven't been to Luke, Edgar, in about 2 or 3 weeks for some reason. I don't know what y'all been doing, but we ain't been to Luke chapter 20. We finished the discussion of the parable of the vineyard there. We've discussed verse 17, you know, about the stone which the builders rejected, the same has become the head of the corner. Verse 19, the chief priest and the scribes of the same hour sought to lay hands on Jesus, but they feared the people, for they perceived that Jesus had spoken that parable about them. He thought that he was talking about them. Imagine that. And of course he was talking about them. They figured that out pretty quick. Well, let's notice verse 20 now. We'll read down through verse 26. We possibly can discuss all those 6 verses this morning. Pat had to go home and take a breathing treatment. She's coughing a lot. But she'll be back in just a minute. Luke chapter 20, notice verse 20. And they watched him and sent forth spies which should feign themselves just men, that they might take hold of his word, so that they might deliver him unto the power and authority of the governor. And they asked him, saying, Master, we know that thou sayest and teachest rightly. Neither acceptest thou the person of any, but teachest the way of God truly. Is it lawful for us to give tribute unto Caesar or not? But he perceived their craftiness, and said unto them, Why are you tempting me? Show me a penny. Whose image and superscription does it have? And they answered and said, Caesar's. And he said unto them, Render therefore to Caesar the things which be Caesar's, and unto God the things which be God's. And they could not take hold of his words before the people, and they marveled at his answer, and they held their peace. Going back now to verse 20, notice that they're watching him. He's presented this parable of the vineyard. Luke chapter 20, verse 1 tells us that there were the chief priests and the scribes and the elders of the people. Verse 19 tells us that there were chief priests and the scribes. Some of these people, all of these people probably were watching him. They were trying to watch him and find something that they could accuse him of. This is recorded, of course, in Matthew chapter 22 and Mark chapter 12. But they're watching him, and they're going to send some spies. What was he hiding? You know, or are they going to disguise themselves and go out as spies? They're going to put on a false mustache coat, and he won't know who they are. No, that of course is not what he means. Notice who they're going to send. Look at Mark chapter 12. Luke doesn't tell us this. Mark chapter 12, verse 13. And they send unto him certain of the Pharisees and the Herodians to catch him in his words. They're going to send some Pharisees. They're going to send some Herodians. Notice, back up if you would to Mark chapter 3 and verse 6. This is again mentions these Herodians. We're going to find out who they are. Mark chapter 3 and verse 6. I'm almost there. And the Pharisees went forth and straightway took counsel with the Herodians against Jesus, how they might destroy him. Who's the Herodians? Who's the word, sir?
You say Herodians?
Herodian, yes.
Well, that comes out of the word. Go ahead,
Herod, King Herod. King Herod?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It comes out of Herod's bunch.
Yeah. They're supporters or followers of King Herod. They're Herodians. You know, we hear of Trumpsters today, Trump and Trumpsters. People who are really into supporting Trump. And back in the 80s, it was the Reaganites, President Reagan's followers. But now we've got these Herodians. And these are Jewish folks who are supporting supporters of King Herod. And he's the occupying authority. That these Pharisees, they're against King Herod. They don't like King Herod. He's their boss, and he's not even one of them. But we've got the Herodians now, and the Pharisees. They've joined forces together. Herodians are their friends of King Herod. Maybe they thought that they could have some advantage by this, by simply saying, King Herod, I like you. You know, I've got you back wherever you might be. I've got you back. You don't have to worry about me. The idea is if you can't beat them, join them, that type of thing. The Pharisees and the Herodians then were, of course, not friends, but now they share a common enemy. They both don't like this man Jesus, and they hated Jesus more than they hated one another, and so they're going to join together and see if they can't do something with this man Jesus. But notice that they're going as spies. They're going pretending to be friends of Jesus. They're going to act like they're interested in what this man Jesus teaches. They're actually going to act like they're interested in doing their civic duty, and they're just so proud to see Jesus. With these, and we're going to be talking about taxes, paying taxes. That's going to be their question here. Were they really interested in the idea of paying taxes?
No. They were trying to entrap Jesus.
Yeah. Are we interested in paying taxes today? We really like it, don't we? No. We pay it, but we don't like it. We're about like them. The Pharisees, they hated the publicans. Remember who the publicans were? They were the tax gatherers. They were Jews who collected the tax from their Jewish friends and neighbors. And they really hated them because he's here to collect the tax so he can send my tax money, my money to Caesar in Rome. The Herodians acted like they liked Herod, and so they're all in for Herod. They probably didn't like to pay the taxes either. They didn't want to pay it either, but they didn't want Herod to know that. And so these folks are going to act like they want Jesus' advice about something. Do you think Jesus knew who they were?
Yes.
Of course, we're going to see that he did. He didn't know who they were by name, probably. But let's remember, Jesus has just made his triumphal entry into Jerusalem, remember? He's been there a day or two or three. I don't know how long he's been there, but he's not going to have about 6 days there before they crucify him. He probably didn't know that this bunch was Herodians and this bunch was Pharisees, but he knew that they weren't there just to find out what he thought about paying taxes. But no, go ahead. Did I hear someone? I thought I heard somebody. Notice verse 21. And they ask him, notice this, saying, Master, we know that you say and teach rightly. We know that you don't accept the person of anybody, and we know that you teach the way of God truly. We got to butter this guy up first, We're friends. We're friends. And by the way, what we say here is just going to be among us friends. It's not going any further than this, but we got an important question for you. And we know all of this about you, that you speak and teach rightly, and all these three things that they said about him was true. The only problem was that they didn't believe that. They didn't believe any of that. They were hypocritical, didn't believe any of that. In John chapter 3 and verse 1, Nicodemus came to Jesus by night. He was part of the upper crust there. He was a Jew. And he said something similar to that. We know that you are a teacher come from God. But Nicodemus actually meant that. He wasn't being hypocritical. He wasn't trying to deceive this man Jesus. He was truthful about it. These folks, they don't care. They don't believe none of that about this guy Jesus. We know that you do not accept the person of any. What does that mean? You don't accept the person of any. That Jesus is not intimidated by other folks, that he don't mind telling the truth. He's not intimidated by King Herod. He's not intimidated by Caesar. He's not intimidated by the governor. What we have to ask you, we know you're going to tell us the exact truth. You're not going to shy away from it and beat around the bush. We know that you're not intimidated by the person of anybody. And we know that you truly teach the way of God. What he taught was obvious, absolutely true and righteous there. But notice their intention. Go back to verse 20. They came to take hold of his words. They knew that he taught the way of God truly. They're come there to take hold of his words. If they'd allowed his words to take hold of them, it would have been a different situation. They didn't come for that. we're going to entrap him, we're going to trap him. He's going to say something here that we can go back and tell the governor what this guy said, and the governor's job is going to be to do something with him. And of course, that's what they're not interested in learning the truth. Because they think he was stupid. They think he was sort of like me. You know, go to buttering me up, and I've told Linda this before, you know, go to buttering me up, Linda, my head will be so big I won't get out the double doors yonder. I'd have probably believed all that stuff, Jeff. But no, he knew that was all just flattery, you know, that would have probably worked with me, but it's not going to work with him. You know, in Acts chapter 6 and verse 11, when they had arrested Stephen, they had hired people to come in and testify against Stephen, suborned people. They hired them to come in and tell a lie there. Matthew chapter 26 and verse 59, there were false witnesses against Jesus, and Pilate knew that. He knew that it was just for envy they brought him before him, Pilate, that, you know, all this stuff going on here, it didn't amount to nothing. Even Pilate knew that. But notice, anyone have any comment? Notice the question here now in verse 22. Jesus, we want to know something now. This is just between friends now. It ain't going no further. Is it lawful for us to give tribute unto Caesar or not? Now, what's the tribute he's talking about? Taxes.
Tribute, also the honor.
Yeah, I think so. But this is, I think, primarily talking about taxes.
He said, is it okay for us to accept Caesar?
Okay.
You know,
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I think there in the context he's talking about taxation, but in application he's talking about, do we render our allegiance to Caesar?
Mm-hmm. But part of the allegiance would be paying the tax, huh? Yeah. You know, I think they're like us. We don't like to pay the tax, but you know that's what we got to do, and so we pay the tax. You know, and Jesus, we want to know what you think. You know, Matthew 22 verse 17 said, "What thinkest thou, Jesus, about this? Should we Jews give tribute to Caesar?" And that tribute, of course, could be honor and respect, but it's going to turn out from here to be paying taxes. Paying taxes to Caesar. And they didn't want to pay this tax. You know, Caesar is the occupying authority. They're going to send their tax money to Caesar in Rome, when, you know, thousands of miles away, and they're not going to get a whole lot out of it. Well, that's the way we feel today. I paid in my taxes that year, and I don't ever see nothing to get out of my taxes. But of course we do. If we were to really sit down and look at that. But you know, that's sort of a difficult question now for Jesus. Either way he's going to answer that, it's going to be offensive to some folks. You know, and there's other people there that are listening. These are Jewish people. That these Jews claim to have no other king but God, and now we've got King Caesar in Rome up there, and their independence from these Romans, from Caesar specifically, was central to their religious beliefs. You know, the publicans collected taxes from these folks, and the folks paid the taxes reluctantly, and sometimes they were charged more taxes than they should have paid. But, you know, if Jesus is going to tell them, you know, well, no, this is just between us. You don't have to pay that tax. That'd be very popular. Andy, all you got to do this morning is get up here and tell us we don't have to pay no tax, and you'd be very popular for that. we might get in trouble later on. You probably wouldn't, but we as individuals would. But notice about these Pharisees. Now, they're listening to this. They're waiting for Jesus to tell them, yeah, you got to pay the taxes. You know, and that's going to be against what they want to hear. I don't want to hear that. You know, they're asking Jesus, and they're expecting Jesus to tell them, yeah, you got to pay it. They didn't want to hear that. It's against their religious convictions. You know, these people, these Jews, were like us today. They're covetous. Pay taxes. You know, I can spend my money a whole lot better than they can spend my money for me. And so these Pharisees, now they're going to stir up these folks if he tells them that they've got to pay the tax. But on the other hand, now the Herodians, they're listening. If the answer is no, you don't have to pay them taxes. They're going to go straight to the governor. Remember verse 20? Verse 20, they're coming out that they might take hold of his words, so that they might deliver him unto the power and the authority of the governor. Andy, I thought they were Herodians. We got a governor. Why we got a governor and where's King Herod?
Because the governor worked under King Herod.
Pardon me?
He was the authority that could take care of Jesus. He worked under Herod.
Okay. Go back.
He was the Roman authority that Pilate was. Ricky, there's two words in this. You know, look, he said he perceived their craftiness.
Yes.
Jesus understood that, and he was able to take their own words or their own item and separate the physical from the spiritual.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think, you know, today, that's wisdom, being able to look at the whole situation.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, I think strange sometimes. I thought, you know, Paul said there's every temptation is a way of escape. You just got to look for it.
Yeah.
Jesus, he backed up, thought about it, knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
And he nailed it to the wall for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. He dealt with their civil responsibility, but also with their.
He separated the physical from the spiritual.
Yeah, he did. You know, he's pretty quick on his feet. Of course, he had some divine wisdom too, and that would help. But notice Luke chapter 3 and verse 1, which they're going to report to the governor, but they're Herodians, they're followers of King Herod. They're followers of Herod the Great. Herod the Great's dead. But that doesn't matter. They were followers of him while he was still living. Luke chapter 3 and verse 1. Now in the 15th year of the reign of Tiberius Caesar, now this is the Caesar we're talking about. There were a bunch of several Caesars. This is Tiberius Caesar. Pontius Pilate was the governor of Judea, Herod being the tetrarch of Galilee, and Philip the tetrarch of two other areas there, and Licinius was the tetrarch of Abilene. Remember when King Herod died, he had 4 sons. He had Archelaus, and he had Herod there, who was the tetrarch of Galilee, and had Philip, and he had Licinius. And so Caesar back in Rome, remember, he divided Herod the Great's territory up into four parts between his 4 sons. Archelaus, who got Jerusalem and Judea, he wasn't a very good king. He was always into trouble, so they recalled him to Rome, and Caesar sent Pilate. He wasn't going to be the king, but he's going to be the governor. He's in charge. And of course, that's what we, as we go back to Luke chapter 20, we ain't got no king now in Jerusalem or Judea, but we've got the governor, and he's the authority. And so when they're going to go report what Jesus said there, they literally mean they're going to go talk to the governor, not King Herod. You know that, and that points to the accuracy, if you would, of Luke's writing here. Notice Luke chapter 23. Luke chapter 23 and verse, beginning in verse 4. Then Pilate said to the chief priests and the people, I find no fault in this man. And they were the more fierce, saying, he stirs up the people. He just threw out all Jewry, beginning, notice this, from Galilee to this place. And when Pilate heard that Jesus was from Galilee, he asked him if he was a Galilean. And as soon as he knew that he belonged to the Herod's jurisdiction, King Herod had Galilee. He don't belong to me. He's from Galilee. King Herod is over Galilee. I'm the governor here. He ain't mine. So that's the reason he sent him to King Herod, because he's one of King Herod's folks, not mine. So get him out of here. He didn't want to fool with all that. But notice, anyone have any comment?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I didn't look the scripture up and didn't think about that, but I think this little difference in the paying taxes, you might know where it is and read it, but they asked him, should we pay taxes? And he said, go pick up the fish and get the money out of his mouth and pay our taxes.
Yeah, let's see.
You might have that down.
I've got it down here somewhere. Yeah, I've got it here somewhere. He told Apostle Peter, go look in the fish's mouth, and you're going to find the coin and go pay our taxes. The Lord's tax and all the apostles' tax, you know, I don't know how big the
What
corn.
verse is that?
I've got it wrote here. You wouldn't believe my scribbling. Well, you probably would.
I was thinking last one, right, Matthew, but
Yeah, I'll find it here in a minute because we're fixing to get there. But yeah, Jesus paid taxes. He paid taxes.
you know, we all, as we pay taxes through the years, we hate paying taxes. I know everybody hates paying taxes, but that's our duty to pay taxes to our government. But we have no say-so what they do with the taxes. They waste it, or everything in the world.
Yeah.
They misuse our taxes.
Yeah.
But that's why a lot of people hate paying taxes.
Yeah, I understand. I understand.
If they use the money right and use it right, people wouldn't mind paying taxes. But
Yeah.
when they start forming all this clinics and things they call it and all that, it's,
So should we not pay taxes then? Do we have to pay taxes regardless? We still have to pay the taxes though.
do what?
We still have to pay the tax whether we
Yeah.
agree with it or not. Yeah. And we do have some benefits from our taxes, you know, we do. But you know, these taxes, they're going to be sent to Rome. How much of that tax is going to get back to Jerusalem now? You know, probably not a whole lot. We think we got it bad. They probably had it worse, and they're having to pay this tax to this heathen nation with this heathen ruler. And they some of these folks, those that felt dominated, they're dominated by this Roman emperor, and so they didn't have any choice. And of course, that's the right answer. They didn't have any choice about that. But notice this now. Go with it in Matthew chapter 21. Remember when Jesus made this, what we call the triumphal entry into Jerusalem? And this has just happened there in Luke also. He's in Jerusalem for the last time. That's what we're talking about there in Luke chapter 20. Matthew chapter 21, but verse 9, multitudes that went before Jesus and many that followed Jesus cried, saying, Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest. Remember when we talked about this several weeks ago, Hosanna is the idea of Lord, save us. Save us. Save us from our misery, from our poverty. Save us from this being dominated by these Roman authorities that they thought that he is the son of King David. So Hosanna to the son of King David. Save us. He's going to sit on David's throne. You know, even the apostles in Acts chapter 1 and verse 6, they didn't understand what the kingdom was. Before you ascend into heaven, Lord, is this, you're going to restore the kingdom of Israel now before you leave? Well, no. They still misunderstand that. But, you know, this guy that's being asked this question now, he's going to sit on David's throne. They're thinking he's going to be the king over Israel. This Roman occupation is going to be gone. But, you know, if he says, yes, you got to pay the taxes, you know, what are they going to think about this new king now? We still got to pay the tax? But they're not going to be impressed. You know, are they more interested in obeying the civil law, or are they more interested in the Messiah? Of course, they're interested in the Messiah. We don't want to pay the tax. Notice verse 23 as we go back to Luke chapter 20 now. Verse 23, but he perceived their craftiness, and he said to them, why are y'all tempting me? He knew what they were up to. Perceived their craftiness. He knew that they were being subtle. They knew that they were being hypocritical. They were being deceitful. They were being fraudulent. They weren't being honest with him. You know, that's one thing the Apostle Paul, note 2 Corinthians chapter 4. Are people today crafty? We don't use that term today. Are people today crafty? 2 Corinthians chapter 4. Yeah, here it is. Paul talking about his ministry. Do we have crafty television evangelist ministers today? Crafty, you know, make this pledge of $1,000. You ever seen that guy on TV? He's always asking for a pledge of $1,000. You need to go to your phone right now and make that pledge. I mean, that's the whole show. I guess people are sending it in. He's always on the TV, but anyway. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, therefore seeing we have, this is verse 1, we have this ministry as we have received mercy. Notice verse 2, we have renounced, we've given up, we've thrown away the hidden things of dishonesty, and we don't walk in craftiness. We're not trying to deceive you by being dishonest and hypocritical. What we're trying to tell you folks is exactly the way that it is. Notice Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 14. Yeah, people are still crafty today. They're subtle, they're fraudulent, they're hypocrites today. Ephesians chapter 4 verse 14. As members of the church, we're to henceforth be no more children that are tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine by the sleight of men and by cunning craftiness. That's what those people were trying to do when they were buttering Jesus up. We know this about you. It's all good stuff. And he should have just been flattered. And that's part of the downfall of a lot of us as human, that we can be easily flattered and deceived to hear all this good stuff about ourselves. Notice 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 1. We discussed this a little bit last week. There were false prophets also among the people, even though there shall be false teachers among you. Notice verse 18. Or when they speak great swelling words of vanity about you, they're alluring you through the lust of the flesh. Ricky, you are just such a swell teacher. You're just such and so good looking too. That's hypocrisy. But we tend to believe that there are people that do that to make merchandise of you, to use you in some way. That's what these people were doing. As we go back to Luke chapter 20, their question was deceitful. They weren't interested in his wisdom on the subject of paying taxes. Maybe they should have asked him, how do we avoid, a loophole somewhere? How can we avoid paying this much tax? But that wasn't what they asked. But notice here, Jesus answers their question by asking them a question. Why are you folks tempting me? They were hypocrites, and Jesus knew it. They weren't interested in him. Do you think, that they buttered him up? They're standing there smiling from ear to ear. And all of a sudden, he's just looking right at them and says, why are you tempting me with that? You think the expression on their face changed? Expression in their eyes changed? I mean, you could see it immediately. That they knew that he knew what they were. They're hypocrites, and Jesus knew it. Jesus knew the heart of these people. He knew their true intention of these people. What's more truthful? What comes out of our mouth, or what's in our heart?
What's in your heart that you can't hide it.
And sometimes it can't be hidden. Sometimes it comes out. Notice Luke chapter 6.
Did you find where Matthew 17 is what Vernon was talking about?
Say that again?
Distributors, Matthew 17 is what Vernon was talking about.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm still looking for it, but we'll get there in just a minute. I've lost my place here now. Luke chapter 6. Luke chapter 6 and verse 49, 45. Notice it says, a good man out of the good treasure of his heart, he's going to produce that which is good. And an evil man out of the evil treasure of his heart brings forth that which is evil. Does that mean that this evil man with the evil heart is going to come right out and tell you the truth? No. He will lie to you. He'll be hypocritical. He'll do anything in the world to deceive you. A good man will tell you the truth because that's what's there. The Lord knew their heart. But thankfully, he don't know our heart today.
He does know our heart.
He does?
He does know our heart.
Really? Oh, come on. That's sort of sobering, huh, Andy? He knows our heart today. Really? He knew their heart. And he knows our heart today. He knows what's really in our heart right now.
And Ricky, I don't mean to spoil your class, but he's talks about why tempt you me?
Yeah,
Don't we do this? Can you imagine when God knows our heart?
yeah,
Can you hear him say to us, Andy, why tempt you me?
yeah, yeah,
Andy, why are you doing this foolishness?
yeah,
You know better than that, son.
yeah. But I'll try to keep that in the way back here, back in the back of my mind. You know. But the Lord knows. The Lord knows. He knows.
He knows our service, he knows our heart, and he knows the reason for motives.
Mm-hmm. Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 12, he's able to judge the thoughts and notice the intentions, the true intentions of what's in our heart. Don't pay me no attention to what I tell you, because that may not be what's really in my heart. The problem is the Lord knows what's in my heart. You don't, but he does. And that should make a difference in every one of us, but I guess we're dependent on the fact that, well, he probably overlooked me, or he forgot about me. He don't know what's in my heart now. Well, yeah, he does. Jesus perceived what was really in their hearts. Verse 23, they probably didn't know he could do that. I didn't thought about that. And folks, I try to forget about it too. But he's not going to forget about it. He's not, he's always there watching and looking into all of our hearts. And, that might tend to make me uncomfortable. Maybe it's just me that's uncomfortable with that idea that he knows what's in our hearts, but he does. Notice verse 24. Why are you tempting me? Show me a penny. Anybody got a penny that I can borrow for just a minute? Show me a penny. Whose image and superscription is on this penny? Jesus is going to borrow a penny now. Whose image is on the penny? Whose image is on our penny? I had to look. Sir? It is Lincoln. I'm like you. What is it, Lincoln? And it is. It's Lincoln. His image is on our penny. What is a superscription, first of all? What's a superscription?
An image, a stamp.
Well, the superscription is what's written there.
Yeah,
You know what's written on every denomination of our money, and I didn't realize this.
in God we trust.
In God we trust. It's on every coin or paper money. Why hasn't somebody objected to that in our society today?
They have. You didn't realize that?
No. Well, why is it still on there?
Here about 3 years ago, there was one went to the Senate, and it passed the House.
To take it off?
They're going to take In God we trust off. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And
But it's still there.
thank goodness the Conservative Party beat it.
Yeah. But Andy, I'm a taxpayer and I don't believe in God. My tax money goes to print that money there that says in God we trust. No, that's not me.
I thought about this. The Lord couldn't have used an American penny because it's got both God and Lincoln on it.
Yeah.
Give it time.
Edgar?
Give it time.
Give it. Yeah, well, that's what I thought too, and I didn't know that was on every piece of money, but it is on every piece of money that we use. That's a superscription. But notice, let's go back to Jesus. He's asking them whose image now is on this penny here, and they answered. Where is it at? And they answered, verse 24. Well, that's Caesar. That's Tiberius Caesar. Remember Luke chapter 3 and verse 1? And an image of Tiberius Caesar and his superscription is on there. Maybe it said in God we trust. Probably not. I would have said Tiberius Caesar, Emperor in Rome, or something. I don't know what it said there. But notice this. What Jesus is telling these people: y'all use that money. That's the currency of the land. If you don't want to use that money, then what are you going to use to buy and sell and just to survive? You're using this Roman currency. You're sort of underscoring the point that Rome is dominating Israel at this time, and it is. But did you know the Jewish money had no image on it? There's no image on the Jewish money. They had superscriptions on it. I don't know what it was. They had no image on it of anybody because they thought that was an idol. The image on the money. No image on the Jewish money, coin. It sort of makes you wonder about the golden calf and all the other idols that they worship, but they wouldn't put an image on their coin, their money. None for them, but now we've got Caesar's image on this coin that they're using. Pat and I were in Pennsylvania a couple of weeks ago. Those Amish folks don't like their picture. They don't want their picture taken because that's an image. That's an image of them, and that's an idol to them, and they don't want their picture taken. And they may have a good point there. You know, I don't know. But this is notice verse 25 here. They said, well, that's Caesar there. And look, well, if that's Caesar on this penny, then give Caesar what belongs to him. He's got his picture on it. He's got his image on it. It's his money. It's his currency. Render to Caesar what you owe Caesar. What belongs to Caesar's. Could you folks survive without the Roman currency? You want to try it? Well, they had to have it. You know, but money costs money to print. You got to pay for this money that you're using there. You have to pay taxes to have the money to pay the taxes, I guess. You know, we used to have. We had to have a mule so we could raise corn. We had to raise corn so we could have the mule, Edgar, and we just never did get anywhere that way. But, they had to pay taxes so they could have the penny. They had to have the penny so they could pay the tax. Should we pay taxes today? No, honestly, really.
Yes.
You heard what Burnell said, Andy, about how it's wasted. But notice.
Well, 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 6. Submit yourself to every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake.
Where you at?
1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 13.
Okay.
Submit yourself to every ordinance of men for the Lord's sake, whether it be the king or supreme or the governors, and they were sent and punished evildoers. I was going to make the point before we close the class.
Okay.
Jesus is not condemning civil government here, because we as Christians are told that we have to support civil government.
Yes.
What is it, Romans 13:1?
Yeah, we're fixing to go there.
Being the higher powers.
Yeah.
Paul addresses it in Titus.
Notice Romans 13, verse 1 and 2. You know, all politics is local, and local politics here, several years ago, thankfully, it was fierce. People got mad if you didn't vote for who they thought you should vote for. I mean, families divided over the election for the police jury member. I mean, almost come to, yes, Andy, you know that.
Ricky,
Romans.
it happened last Saturday, 2 miles down the road.
Yeah. People come to blows over the...
People fight over the electing machines.
Romans 13, verse 1, let every soul be subject unto the higher power. There is no power but of God, the power that be ordained of God. Whosoever, notice this, therefore resist the power, resisteth the ordinance of God, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. I've heard members of the church here argue fiercely over who we need to vote for the board member. I mean, fierce. We didn't vote together. We didn't speak to for thankfully, we've grown past that. I don't think it's that bad anymore. But yeah, it's a divided people right here over, who cares?
Edgar, if I run for police jury and Ricky runs for police jury, who are you going to vote for?
Edgar.
No.
I'm not running. I'll vote for him. I don't want it.
Pat in my pocket.
Yeah.
That's the point. He got it.
Notice verse 6 and 7, though. We need to honor these folks. I'll tell you, he was elected police jury member, but you know how his daddy was? They're all alike. They're all alike. Thieves.
Look, you reverted verse 6.
Yeah.
For this cause pay ye tribute also, for they are God's ministers attending continually on this very thing. God appointed civil government for certain reasons.
Yeah.
He did not appoint civil government to handle spiritual matters.
No.
That's the church's business.
Yeah.
It's like he didn't appoint the church to take care of the home. That's the home's business. Mm-hmm. There's the entity that we have to identify. And they can all coexist in unity and to the benefit of the child of God.
Yes.
The government is not necessarily against us, as is the home is not against the church against the home.
Yeah.
When we all function together as God intended it, you can trust God's system.
Yeah. We have here two different authorities. We've got Caesar's authority, which is earthly, and we got God's authority, which is heavenly. And Jesus here is going to go back to Luke chapter 20. He's going to point out the difference in the two. Give Caesar what belongs to him. You're acknowledging that you're using Caesar's money. It's his, you know, but you have an obligation to the Lord also. Whose image do we bear today?
Christ.
Okay. Genesis chapter 1 and verse 26, let us make man in our own image. Our own image. The image of Christ should be stamped on our soul. You know, spiritually speaking, it's not a family resemblance, of course. We're a new person in Christ. The image of God is graven on our souls. This image that we have, the soul that we have, it belongs to God, just like what was Caesar's is Caesar's. The soul that we possess is going to go back to God who gave it. And so render to God what belongs to God. And just as we pay tribute and honor and obedience to the government, and we should, we have to do the same thing for the Lord, but probably even more so, with a greater desire and a zeal to do that. Anyone have any question for past time?
I don't want to get too far off in class, but I've heard Christians hold the position that a child of God can't be a civil government person. You can't serve in civil authorities. You can't run for election. You can't serve. That's one way that we as Christians can make a difference in today's world, is to get involved in today's world. Not sinfully, but you can make a difference, and you can have an influence.
All right. Nicodemus was part of the Sanhedrin Council.
But I've heard Christians in many congregations hold the position that a child of God can't serve a civil government.
I don't
see there's not a conflict there.
No.
But in Romans chapter 13 verse 7, render to each man what is his, or to each power what is his.
No, you can. Your tough time might be a hard time trying to keep your nose clean while trying to serve, but anyway, it could be done, and there's nothing wrong with it. Next week, Lord willing, notice as we're going to get into verse 27, I think it is. I told my Bible. The Sadducees are coming. Sadducees are coming. Talk a little bit about the Sadducees next Sunday morning, the Lord willing. Where did they get the idea that there is no resurrection of the dead? That's the difference between the Sadducee and the Pharisee. Where did they get that idea? And maybe I learned something, Edgar. I'm old, but I still learn every now and then. But look at that for next week, and we'll discuss it. Thank you for your help this morning. I've enjoyed the class.